title.
Yeah, that's a ChatGPT
No,
came up with that. Hi, everybody. This is
no
Unchained
pressure.
CEO, and I am Caleb Jones. I'm here with Business Auntie Billie, and this is how you start your own location independent business that frees you from your 9-to-5 job, and or moving to a less bad country, and or setting up an international backup plan, and doing all these things for very little money. Hi, Billie.
Hi, Caleb.
I look
Hi,
very
everyone.
dark, and you look very bright. I guess that looks okay. I guess
It's
it's a
a
good
really bright day here. Sorry. I have the
It
kids closed and
it
everything.
provides a contrast.
It does.
Um,
Well, you are a darker angel than I am, let's say.
That's true. Yeah, it's kind of fitting, isn't it? Today we're going to talk about. I've been thinking about this a lot. I was thinking about this all weekend, actually, on procrastination, which is the number one problem of most people, I think, in terms of getting these things done in your life. And when the survey is done, I'll give you more information next week on, because some of you are reporting this as a real problem that you just can't get moving, or you're not motivated, or whatever. A lot of bullshit excuses, but some valid excuses too. Before we cover that really fast, I have to take 2 minutes and address something that happened this morning. Those of you who know George Gammon, he's a big, if you don't know who that is, he's a big YouTuber. He's an economics guy. He does whiteboard videos. He's got like 800,000 followers. He talks about Western collapse stuff. He just got banned off YouTube permanently. He had like 5 or 6 channels. They've banned all of them except one. And as usual, they don't tell you why they ban you. They just say you're banned. The whole channel's banned. And by YouTube policy, you're supposed to get 3 strikes within 90 days. Then they ban you. He's never had a strike in his life. I'm leading up to a point here. The point is that what I'm going to do is, and it sucks because he's a really nice guy. He's a good guy. There are horrible people on YouTube, and there are really nice people on YouTube, and it seems like the nice ones always get banned. The horrible ones probably get banned too, but I don't pay attention to them. I guess that's a bias. But anyway, what I'm going to do is, I mentioned this a few weeks ago, is I'm going to completely, this is not why I'm going to do this. This is the second reason. Completely redo in April, probably early May, redo how I do all my social media. So right now I'm using YouTube as a de facto podcast platform, which is not the point of YouTube. I'm still going to do live streams. That's not going to change. I'm still going to do stuff on YouTube. But instead of focusing content on YouTube, I'm really going to start focusing on, unfortunately, Twitter and fortunately LinkedIn, because those algorithms are more friendly for what I'm talking about. I'll still do YouTube stuff. We're going to have some stuff on Instagram too, but I'm going to redo all that. I'll talk more about it in a few weeks. But the primary reason is I'm not using YouTube the way it's supposed to be used, because YouTube long form content's okay, but it also likes medium form and short form content, which I don't like. But anyway, that plus, just like with Stefan Molyneux before this, YouTube could at any time just decide to press a button and delete my entire channel. This channel is less threatened than my other channel. That one's more likely to be threatened. But in case that ever happens, like happened to George this morning, remember that all these are podcasts that are audio podcasts, and those will stick around forever. So remember that if you prefer podcasting, you can go to calebjones.com for this, Unchained CEO, calebjones.com/podcast. And I'm on the top 11, 12 podcast platforms over there. So all this is in audio there. And if anything ever happened to this channel, all the audio is still over there on the podcast stuff, which will never go. Just to let you know. So if you ever click this channel and it's gone, I don't think that'll happen to this channel, but it could. George Gammon talks about economics and stuff. Who knows? You ever see that happen? Go to the podcast. And again, I'll have by the end of in the next 60 days, I'll have a presence. Unfortunately, I don't want to do this, but on Twitter, I think Twitter's a shithole, but it's a business decision. And LinkedIn too. Just letting you know that this is the reality of the world we live in right now. So, okay. See, I already see questions in the comments. That's great. Billie, do you want to start with the procrastination? Otherwise, I can.
Well, you've said a couple of things already that, as a neurodivergent person, made me say, golly, I don't think Caleb understands procrastination. So first, I would love if you could start by telling me your views and your understanding of procrastination in your life and in your experience.
Procrastination, this is my definition. This isn't the dictionary definition because I don't even know what that is. But my definition of procrastination is you want a particular result, You know you need to do something to get that result, but you just don't do it because you're either lazy or you don't have quite enough motivation. You would like it, but not enough to do work, or you have a personality where you get distracted often, or I guess those three reasons. That's my definition.
So this is really common, guys. I hear this from almost every business guru out there, especially the males, that it has to do with laziness or motivation. And let me tell you, as someone who studied this and who's really interested in the psychology behind it, because I struggle with procrastination, that you're actually pretty far off base for many people.
Well, I said one of the reasons would be if you have a type of personality where you're easily distracted.
I think you're onto something there a little bit, but actually the biggest cause of procrastination is a fear of rejection. That can manifest in a lot of different ways. There are also some true brain issues, neurology issues, such as for people on the spectrum like myself with ADHD, autism, ODHD. We deal with something called executive dysfunction. So our brains literally are wired differently than your own, Caleb. So if people were to sit with me, your audience knows this. You did that live stream that was 4 or 5 days long a couple of months ago, where they got to, the participants got to follow you around on camera.
Yeah.
At the place in Dubai. And they got to see how you jam pack your days, which is the truth. Now, if those same people were to follow me around, they would think that I'm lazy, because the outward expression of the work I do doesn't look like much until I put it down on paper. I do a lot of my work in my head, and it takes a lot for me to get it out onto paper or into a medium where I can share it with other people. And I can want to do that. I can be very motivated to do that. Caleb, you know me. I'm involved in 7 different businesses right now, several of which I own outright. I'm also involved in a charity. I'm also involved in, having a life like everyone else does. But if you were to watch me and follow me with a camera for several days, you would think I was a lazy person.
But isn't a lot of that your lifestyle choice? You don't want to work 12 hours a day like I do. That's not something you want to do.
So some of it is. I have absolutely no desire to work as many hours in the day as you do, because there's too much fun stuff that I enjoy in life. Our priorities are simply different. And for me, that's a lot of local and regional travel, a lot of nature excursions, etc. So,
but that's not. But my point is, that's not procrastination. That aspect of it, that's a choice.
That part is a choice. But what you guys don't see is the 10 hours that I might sit staring at my laptop, desperately wanting to get started on something and completely unable to do so. It can be very crippling for people, even people who, by outward expression, people like myself who seem successful or seem to have it together. I struggle to take a shower sometimes. And so I would love for you to describe to me, Caleb, you wake up in the morning and the first thing you need to do is take a shower. What do you do when you open your eyes?
As soon as I open my eyes?
Yeah, you got out of bed, you're in bed, you open your eyes, you're like, I should take a shower. What from there? What is your thought process to getting into the shower and getting that?
There's not much. There's not much thought. It's robotic.
And so, I think, tell me more about that.
It's habit. So I do the same thing every morning. So it's just at this point, it's just robotic. First, I have to take the tape off my mouth because I tape my mouth shut when I sleep. Then I have to take the tape off my nose because I have nose tape when I sleep. Then I got to pull the earplugs out of my ears and it's just robotic. And then I get up and I have to go to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom, and as soon as I go to the bathroom, I weigh myself. And then I say my weight into my phone for voice notes to track my weight. Then I go back to my bedroom and I look on my phone and it says whether I did do testosterone shots that morning or not, or what pills to take in the morning before I eat. So I take those. Then I drink 45 swallows of salt water. 1, 2, 3, 4. I count the swallows. And then I get up and start whatever routine I have planned. But it's all robotic. I think about stuff, but I just do this robotically because it's a habit.
So this is what often happens for people like me. Those habits don't form in the same way. So you're kind of starting every day afresh. And so unlike Caleb, who just wakes up and says, okay, just automatically takes the tape off, goes into the restroom, relieves himself, takes a shower, lathers his body, does his hair, does his testosterone shots. He's not thinking about every granular step of that process.
Right.
Guess who does? Every single step. I think about every single step I have to achieve. And in my case, as an autistic person with some sensory processing issues, I also think about things like I'm going to have to take my clothes off and step on this cold floor. It's going to take a minute for the water to get running and to set it up to the temperature I want. I'm going to have this feeling of, wet hair, and it's going to take half an hour, 45 minutes just for me to blow dry it, right? So I'm going to have to deal with all of these tactile sensations. And I'm thinking, from the minute
is that a problem? That you have to think about these tactile sensations?
Yes, for me it is. For me, it absolutely is, because these are sensory processing issues. So it drives me nuts. I hate having wet hair. I also hate, and this is bizarre, I do not like having wet wrists. So like when I wash my hands, I'm really careful not to get my wrist wet.
That's just a Billie. And that's just a Billie. That's a Billie thing. Well, that's a Billie quirk.
But it's not a Billie quirk. This is something that's actually common to people that have sensory processing issues, right? But I'm used to the people in my life saying it's just a Billie quirk, and I believed that for 40 some years until I started learning more about my particular disorder or different wiring. And the reason for it isn't a Billie quirk like I thought. It is like you get a sensory overload. And for me, having wet hair gives me a sensory overload. And that is often what's happening when we're dealing with procrastination. It's a sensory overload. It's seeing things at a granular level, and it becomes this huge mountain of things that you have to do, versus Caleb, who just wakes up and does the thing, looks at his phone, goes on about his day. So this presents challenges for people in this spectrum, and especially in Caleb's audience. I've really noticed, working in the Business Builder, how many people in your audience have ADHD specifically. I would guess at least half percentage. I would guess at least half of your audience is somewhere on that neurodivergent spectrum, with ADHD being like the most blatantly obvious one to me. And a lot of that, we have a few things going on. So we have something called rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which means that when we experience what we feel is a rejection, and it could be something really simple, it could be something, really tedious, just ridiculous, right? Somebody says like your shoe is untied, and you're like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. They're going to think I'm an idiot. Everyone's going to think I'm a moron because I can't tie my shoes, right? It is not logical. But again, this is part of our brain wiring. This is like the gut reaction that we have, and it is a flight, fright, or freeze reaction. And again, this all comes back to the idea of a rejection. When we're procrastinating, we're overwhelmed. We are looking at all of the little steps, and we are fearing that we're not going to be able to do them. We're not going to be able to do them correctly. We're not going to do them well, right? We're going to be embarrassed. We're going to show ourselves off for not being perfect, for not knowing something. We might do something wrong. So it is much, much easier not to do anything, to make excuses, to allow ourselves to stay in the status quo.
Because you feel overwhelmed.
It is. It's like
that makes sense to me.
State of overwhelm.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
And it causes anxiety. And the more anxious you are, the more you're in that emotional response of fight, flight, or freeze. Now, if we run into this in a social circumstance, and especially when we're guys, let's think about, for those of you in the audience who are young guys, think about when you were 20, 22 years old, right? If you were in a circumstance where you felt uncomfortable, where you felt there was rejection, this is when we kind of puff up our chests, and guys do a lot of posturing. You might fight, you might just yell, you might fight. Who knows what it is? We tend to display, as men especially, you're not taught that fleeing, like running away or freezing, are acceptable responses. You're taught to just fight, right? Get it done. That is the advice that most of the business gurus are giving you in your business life as well. Just fight through it. Make it happen. Make something happen. Make a move. Don't be a pussy. Right?
That's right.
And that doesn't work for a lot of us. We want to do that. We want to do those things, but it's like, okay, fucker, tell me how to get started with that. I know I have to clean the kitchen. There are 8,047 steps involved in doing that. Where do you want me to start? Right. And for a lot of us, the key is to capture those granular tasks that we need to do and literally make a list. It sounds ridiculous, but Caleb, what's the first thing that you and I did in terms of like implementing tools and changing the culture at your company?
Basecamp.
What is Basecamp essentially?
It's a project management system, but I think your point is that it's basically a list of to-dos and in what order to do them and when to do them by.
Exactly. It's a list. So I don't care. I mean, I do kind of care. I would prefer you not use a piece of paper because it can get lost. But use a device. We all have them. We're all attached to them 24/7. Capture those little details of everything that you need to do because you're going to have anxiety about remembering this. And that's going to cause you to stop. What if I don't remember? What if I don't do things correctly? Right? So the best tip that I can give all of you to get started is literally write stuff down. Even if you don't need to do it now, but you might need to do it later, don't keep it in your head. Don't trust your brain to remember this and to give you this information on demand because we know it's not going to happen. So write it down. We also know for a lot of people, there is that weird reset we talked about, like taking a shower. For Caleb, it's not a big deal. Doesn't need to think about it. For me, it is a big deal. I need to think about it. I need to prepare myself. I need to process. And a good way for me to do that is just to have a granular list of instructions, what I want to accomplish and the steps to doing it so that I'm prepared. And I can have that as a template in my project management. I could use, my notebook and just use the same thing every time I do a task. But the idea is just capture all of that and check off the boxes, right? Reuse your list and check off the boxes. That is how we establish routine. We don't have to remember it. We don't have to internalize it, guys. We can have tools do it for us. And here, a couple of the tricks that I use to really keep me successful using Basecamp in particular is something called body doubling. Now, Caleb doesn't need this. A lot of people don't, but a lot of us do. And that is just having someone else in the room with you so that you stay focused on a task, so that you stay focused on your work. So if I have 2 blocks in my week, they're 2-hour long blocks twice a week, where I meet with Coach Matt, who works at Boss Cooperative with me. And Matt and I literally body double. We're not even talking to each other most of the time. We're not working on projects together. We're just working on projects and we're on a Zoom call. Because if I know someone is watching,
yeah, that works.
a lot more done.
Yep.
The other thing I do is I have an assistant, Muhammad, who is amazing. Muhammad is in the notify field. So of every task that I have, there's a little line in our project management tool where I can say notify somebody of this task. So I have Muhammad notified of everything that I need to get done. Not because he needs to know. It's because if I know that he knows that I was going to do something by a given date and I don't do it, I will die of mortification. I will die. I cannot tolerate being late. Um,
So it's
so
a
knowing that
layer,
someone
it's sort of like accountability, although it's a type
it
of
is.
accountability, soft
It
accountability.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And well, and sometimes it's not as soft, right? Sometimes he says, Billy, you're holding this up. I really need this. Change the deadline. Give us a realistic deadline. What can I do to help? Let's go.
But even bodily doubling is a soft form of accountability. If you know someone is sitting there for 2 hours, and if you just get up and start farting around, that person will see. That
Yes.
absolutely works. Yes,
It
for a lot of people.
really, it really works for a lot of people. And it can be something as simple as being on a Zoom.
Yeah,
Matt lives in Brazil. I do
yeah,
not.
yeah.
But it's a way for both of us to cope and to make sure that we're really producing content and the things that are more challenging for us to do, the things that we don't want to do, we save for those blocks of time where we're working together. Um, and that for me is a way of battling executive dysfunction as well. What works for a lot of people like myself, um, I hate to say this, but remember writing essays or papers like in high school and college?
Yes.
They'd always teach you to like write an outline, write a draft, and then write your final version after you've written one or two drafts, right?
Yep.
I've
Yep.
never done that in my life. I just
Neither have
can't
I.
be bothered
Neither
to
have
do that. I will wait until the last minute, write a brilliant paper on my way into the classroom.
I.
And it's not because I necessarily want to, right? It might be a project or a paper that I was really excited to do, but for some reason, my executive dysfunction just didn't allow me to get started. But deadlines, give me a deadline and I can perform at the last minute. Now, I'm not happy that I do it that way. I'm not happy to stay up until 4 in the morning working on a project or writing a paper, between classes. Um, so I enforce false deadlines. I impose false deadlines on myself. So if
Good.
something is due on the 15th of the month, it's due on the 10th.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And I know that I'm probably going to do it on the 9th, but I give myself some padding, right? It's the same as kind of setting your clock ahead in your car or on your microwave, right? You set your clock ahead so that you leave a little bit earlier. And I'm just employing that same principle to help me combat my procrastination. I know the
Really
deadline.
quick, you guys should be writing this down. If you have a problem with procrastination, Billy is just giving you about 12 different. She just whipped through about 12 different techniques. Probably all of them will probably help most of you. So what you should do is, if you're just kind of casually listening to this, if you're watching the recording, if you're live or watch the recording, rewind it, and take notes. This is one of those things you got to take notes, because she just gave you like 12 and she's not even done. So just be aware of that. Don't just listen to say, oh, that's a good idea. No, write this down to her point and implement it in your life. But go ahead, Bill. I want
It
to make
really
sure that.
helps. And I was just looking at the comments as you were speaking. Um, One of the fellas said, I basically have an SOP for taking a shower, brushing my teeth, making lunch, etc. I love that. That is why your business auntie loves SOPs or standard operating procedures so much, is that I need them to get through my daily life successfully. Right. And it sounds like Danforth in the comments does also. And that turns itself into a superpower because, of course, we can break other people's tasks down into like little granular bits. We can see everything that needs to be done in a project, and we can help others to write standard operating procedures incredibly easily because we just have to have them to get by. So, Danforth, you're in a good position in my mind. Miguel in Italy said he's having difficulty putting the effort to make his business because he thinks part of him is worried that it's not going to work and he's going to waste time. Again, this is a fear of rejection if you think about it, right? The work, the effort that I put in isn't going to be accepted in the marketplace. No one's going to want it, or it won't be good enough. My answer to that is something. This is what Arthur said earlier in the chat. Something is better than nothing. Do it. There's always going to be a part of you that thinks things might not work out. Everyone has that in them, including Caleb, right? But you overcome that with self-talk, right? You say, no, I believe I can do this. We look at our peers. What are our peers do? You say, you know what? I can do that. I'm equally as skillful. And then we
Yeah.
put ourselves out there. And
Yeah.
it's not like you're going to be naked in front of the whole world saying, hey, look at me. This is what I have to offer, right? That's not what we do. We put ourselves out there in gentle ways, but we also take the time to validate that our business is solving a problem or creating a solution for someone else. And that helps us get over the fear when we, instead of thinking about what we're doing and what we're providing, when we think about what we are giving to someone else. How are we, I'm going to be able to improve this person's life. I'm going to be able to improve this process or this product, whatever it is. Focus on that and focus on the little bitty steps that you need to take to provide that improvement. Don't focus on what you're doing. Focus on what you're giving, and you'll be much happier. And again, use body doubling. Give yourself deadlines for things. Even if you change your deadlines, you're still accountable because you're going to have to go and scratch it off on your notebook or type it into your project management that you changed the date. And if you do that, write a note to yourself, why? Why did I change the date? And you'll find that when you have to see that written down on a piece of paper, that in itself can be enough of a deterrent for procrastination, because you don't want to face yourself and say, I chose not to do this. I wasn't able to do this. Let me just scroll up a little bit. I want to get to a few more of the comments.
Okay.
I'll
get to the comments in a little while
Caleb,
that she doesn't get to.
You come from a completely different perspective and point of view. So I know a lot of this kind of new information for you. Does it change in any way how you feel about procrastination based on or versus how you felt half an hour ago when we started?
For people like you, or even somewhat like you, when I mean like you, I don't even mean maybe even neurodivergent, because you could have people who are technically probably not neurodivergent, but who get overwhelmed very quickly. I mean, that happens to a lot of people. So yes, and I was listening to you as you were going along. And this is for all you guys. Just about everything she said will work with you if you're thinking, well, I'm not neurodivergent, I don't have this problem, because I know some of you are thinking that. I do most of what she's talking about in air. So let's cover this really quick from the perspective of someone who isn't like this, someone who's a little more like me. Now, I would bet most of you are more like Billie than like me. I think I'm the outlier here. I think I could be wrong, but I think if not most of you, the plurality of you are lean a little more toward what Billie has talked about than being like Caleb, being robot Caleb. But there's a few robots out there like you, like me. So if you're more toward me, more toward my end of the spectrum on this, what you'll have to do is these things that apply to areas that you are weak in. Perfect example, when Billie's talking about making an SOP for things that you would consider dumb, like taking a shower. I've been losing a lot of weight lately. And one of the reasons is I did that. I made an SOP for how I eat, because I have a problem with how I eat. I have a psychological issue with food. I have my whole life. Okay. So for example, one of the procedures I have on my eating days, I fast a lot too, is in my phone. I have a specific list of food in the specific order in which I eat it in a given day. And the food adds up to a certain amount of calories for the day. And every time I eat something, I go to my phone. I do this, just like Billie's stuff. I go to my phone, there's a little checkbox, and I hit a button, I check it. And then I know I have that much more food I can eat in the day. And when I have checked off everything, I can't eat any more food that day. And then I have to go in the kitchen and say, okay, what do I eat? Or I don't go in the refrigerator, open up and say, okay, what do I eat in here? There's all this food. What do I eat? I don't have a lot of food in my refrigerator, but it takes the emotion and the procrastination out of the picture as much as possible. And I just do what the phone tells me. Kind of like what I said earlier, when I wake up in the morning, some days I have to take a certain pill, and some days I have to take a certain shot, and some days I don't. And so I just have my phone tell me what to do instead of saying, okay, let's see, today's Sunday. Well, that's dumb. I want to take the decision-making process out of as much of this as I can. So
and the remembering,
everything she said applies to guys like us too. Go ahead.
Yep. And memorization. Like, you don't need to remember all the things you need to do, guys. Even if you're not neurodivergent, you don't need to remember that. Have devices. Unlike Caleb, I have all of my life in Basecamp. I don't fuck around with my phone and using multiple devices. I just have it centralized in one place. And that's everything. All of my
That's
work,
another technique for
personal
people
life.
who are more toward you. Keep it all in one place, one app. Don't be like Nerd Boy and have all these different apps and phone. That's detrimental to a lot of people. And I don't have a lot, but I have more than one. But that's a really good point.
Exactly. Minimize, make your life easier. And I love, Caleb, your idea of minimizing choice,
Yeah,
right? A lot of procrastination comes from anxiety and overwhelm. So
right.
limit choice. I do the same thing. I live in the middle of nowhere. You cannot get food delivered here. It is not a thing. But I
Yeah.
can get like Cook Unity or Home Chef, any of those places that do prepackaged meals, or, got like the chef made nice meals, or the things that you cook at home. So I do that, 3 nights
You
a
can
week, and I don't have to think about it then.
You can also do this, folks, with your time management. So I've mentioned this. I don't generally recommend this because this is kind of hardcore, but this is exactly what Billie is talking about. If you want to try this for a few days, what I do every night, unless it's a day off, I kind of take one day off a week. I still work, but I don't focus on structure or anything. But every night, what I do is I sit down and I plan the next. I have a spreadsheet, I have a template, and it's from when I wake up, 10 a.m. in Dubai, 7 a.m. in Paraguay, depending what country I'm in. And I have a Dubai template and a Paraguay template. So I don't have to think through any of this stuff. So when I wake up 10 a.m. and I go to bed at 1:30 a.m., okay, and it's broken up by 15-minute segments. And I put in what I'm going to do all day, 50 minutes at a time. Work, meditate, go to the gym, time with friends, or in my case, other people, eat. And I put it in there. And obviously there's meetings. So the first thing I do is go to my calendar. What meetings do I have? And I throw the meetings in there first, because you have to put those in first. And I work around morning routine. And then what I do is I take out my phone and I have alarms for every 15 minutes of the day. And I turn those on. And so the phone will ring all day and say, time to work. And then I'll work. Then it'll ring. Time to meditate. Okay. I'm taking choice away from myself. Time to eat. Okay, this is an appointment. Get on the phone and get on Zoom or whatever. And the whole day works like that. I do that every day. Now, do I sometimes ignore what it says? Sometimes, but usually, and if I don't, it still keeps me on track. Like I should be working right now. So that's
So
an
funny.
extreme version of what Billie's talking about, is taking choice out of it. I don't want choice. I want the structure to run my life, not me.
And people like me don't do great with routine. As we said before, it's not easy for us to develop them. We get that weird reset every day. That's why punishment for kids with ADHD doesn't really work, because it's not intentional. A lot of the stuff we do just isn't intentional.
Right. I went through that. Yeah. With my son. Right.
It's fascinating though, because I'm thinking on a sensory basis, if I had anything flashing or making a noise every 15 minutes, I would lose my ever loving mind. I couldn't cope with that at all. So for me, it's time blocks of an hour or 2 hours, and I'm available. I can shift them around during the day. There's always one block open, so I can play Tetris and I can move it around.
So I have a question for you. When you have a time block, let's say you have a time block of 1 hour of work. Okay. And you're done with that time block. Then what do you do? Do you do whatever you want, or do you have a structure?
So I do whatever I want for about 15 or 20 minutes. I take my dogs outside. I go for a walk. I like futz around in the garden or jump in the sauna or something like that.
Okay. So do whatever you want.
Myself, whatever the hell you want break. A get away from it, move away break. And I'll do that after every couple of hours of work, because for me, sitting there longer than 2 hours is not easy. I don't learn that way. I don't work that way. But I will, be putting things down on paper, or, working on things from the moment that I wake up in the morning.
Do you ever look at the macro? We're talking about the micro this entire time, because some of my advice for procrastination is, and maybe this doesn't work for you, is this is a weaker technique. It's not going to work as well as what you were talking about, but as an overall thing, what do I want in life? What are my big goals or my big dreams? A, as the positive, and I do both, positive and negative. B, what happens to me in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years if I don't do any of this? So I have the carrot and the stick. Do you look at any of that stuff? Because I do.
I look at the macro in the positive. Where do I want to be? And then I start breaking it down. What are the steps that I need to take to get there?
Good.
And
So you do that
because
too.
I like doing those, I'm addicted to granular, tiny steps. That's what gets me through life. So I do the same thing with my big goals. Okay, what are the granular steps I need to take to become a national champion horse rider? Right? And I spent more than a decade doing that. You learn the steps, you break it down, and you start attacking. You start crossing things off of your list because that's
But do you
all.
use that as motivation if you feel unmotivated? Do you look at
No,
your goals? No.
no, it
What
doesn't
if
work.
you feel, what do you do when you feel unmotivated? Because that's a common thing with my
I
audience. I just not
do
motivated. I'm not this. I'm not that.
something, do something else.
Do
There's a
something
reason
else.
you're not motivated, and there's an emotional reason for that lack of motivation
Right.
or that lack of inactivity. So rather than struggling, go do something else.
To give your
Let's
mind
let
you mean something else to give your mind a break
yeah, give yourself a complete break. You'll still
and then come
probably
back and then you
then you
circle
come
back
back.
and then think about it?
Yep, and then circle back. But give
Okay.
yourself some grace. This is where I think it's great to go to the gym, go for a walk, a bike ride, do some yoga, some stretching, whatever, pump some iron in your basement, doesn't matter.
Okay.
Do something physical, move your body, get out of your head a little bit. That is going to be, because then you'll give yourself grace. And when you come back to think about it, you have some dopamine and serotonin flowing through your body because you've had this release due to the exercise and the activity. You feel refreshed.
That's cool.
And it helps remove or at least displace some of the uncertainty and anxiety that you're actually dealing with. It also gives you a chance to understand, like, why am I having this reaction to doing this task? What is it about this task? I know it's moving me toward my goal. What is it about this task or this segment of tasks that I need to work on that's causing such a bottleneck for me? Where am I afraid or uncertain? And what can I do to get past that? Is it breaking it down into smaller pieces? Is it reaching out and getting help? Is it simply body doubling so that I will actually put some effort into this because it's a big, maybe it's something that's complicated. And I feel that maybe I'm not capable of doing it. If I body double with someone else, I'm never going to say to that person, I am not capable of doing this, right? I'm just going to buckle down and get it done. So
Is that you're talking
those
about doing tasks you don't want to do? Because we all have to do tasks occasionally that we hate.
Mhm.
Occasionally.
Everything that you procrastinate, there's a reason. There's the things that you hate doing, there's a reason. We just need to sometimes take a step back and understand what that reason is. And again, as men, you're not really encouraged to do that often enough. So explore that a little bit, but rather than making it a barrier, use some other methodologies. Create SOPs for yourself. Watch videos of other people who've dealt with procrastination and some of their tips, tricks, and tools. I watch them almost every day, guys, because it's something you can always improve, regardless of where you are on the spectrum of neurodiversity or being neurotypical, more like Caleb. Let's see, there are a few more notes here. I'm just going to take a quick look at the chat. Caleb, would you add anything to that?
This would probably not work for Billy, but I'm going to throw something out on the other side of it, is that I've talked a lot about, in my view, when you are not, when you say you're not motivated to do something, often that means you are too comfortable. And I've talked about how comfort, in terms of not physical comfort, like you're sitting in a comfy chair, I'm talking about emotional comfort, is very dangerous. When you're comfortable, that means you're not happy. It means your life sucks, but it's okay. And so if you're like, I'd like to make more money, but I do okay, I pay my bills, then you're not going to do the things necessary to get off your ass, to go through a transitional period, to do the things necessary to, like, start your business, move out of your country, whatever you want to do. And so the reason you have not The reason you're comfortable is you haven't gotten in touch with your pain. What sucks about my life that is horrible? A. B. If I don't resolve it, I've talked about the Dickens pattern, which is from Tony Robbins. If I don't do this and it's 5 years later, how do I look? How do I feel? How will I feel? In 10 years, I haven't done this. I still have a stupid 9-to-5 job I hate in 10 years. I still live in a country I don't like. It's getting worse every year, United States. How do I feel now? And you sometimes you have to get in touch with your pain. I've done it. I've done this several times. So that can help. Now, Billie might say, oh my God, that would stress me the fuck out. I wouldn't do that. So then fine. If that would stress me the fuck out, then don't do it.
It's the same thing. It's the same. It's realistically the opposite end of the same coin. You're still exploring yourself. You're still doing some self-work to understand where you are, where your blocks are, and what you really need and want out of life. I think that's great, actually, Caleb. And that's a method I use a lot because negative reinforcement works more with me than positive reinforcement in some ways, at least internally, right? So if I have that internal voice saying you are going to feel like a loser if you don't get off your butt and do this in XYZ amount of time, because I don't want to be 50 or 60, right, and not be able to afford a trip to Morocco or whatever the thing is.
Right.
For me, the mortification of not being able to do something that I want to do is enough motivation. And I do have to revisit it on that level. But it's more of the like, what will it feel like if I don't versus what will it feel like if I do? Because I don't know what it'll feel like if I do, but I can guess easily what it'll feel like if I don't.
Right. That's why I think people need both. Just I want to get rich to buy a Lamborghini is not going to motivate most people. Some people maybe. Most people is I want to get rich for this thing, a cool thing I want to buy. And if I don't, oh my God, it's a combination of both and maybe even lean in the direction of the negative. That's the only time where it's positive to feel negative emotions is what if I don't? Because I've said this many times. My only big irrational fear in life, and really kind of my only fear, I don't have a lot of fears, is Billie just mentioned it. Being old and having no money. I've talked about many experiences of that where I've run to old people who had no money and they just, it just terrifies the shit out of me. A lot of this is probably from my upbringing too.
Same.
The concept of being forget 50s, 60s, 70s and having no money because most old people don't have any money. It's just so disgustingly horrifying. Just saying it just makes my heart go, ugh. And so that's a big part of my motivation.
Like, especially today, like the Social Security being gutted.
Especially today, when you can't rely on any of this
there's
shit.
There's nothing, especially as an American, there's nothing. There's no safety net.
Right.
Terrifying. But yeah, that can be a great, I say whatever works for you is the method you should use and try multiple.
Yes, try multiple methods because everyone's different. So some of these techniques she talked about will work for you and some may not work as well. And everyone's different. So you need to, she's right. You're absolutely right, Billie. You got to try these different techniques and find out which one works for you. Certain ones will work really well for you, but you don't know until you try it. So yes.
A lot of people I know do better, especially if they're working remotely, doing at least a few hours here and there in a co-working space or in a cafe. Now, for me, I hate that.
I do that.
I can't. I like working in silence, like silence, or listening to NPR in the background because I like the soothing voices. Exactly. Mine are in the other room because I tend to work out there. I'm only in my office because you guys are here with me. Otherwise, I'd be hanging out on the sofa with my laptop and my dogs. But yeah, same thing. A lot of us too. Like, I just wanted to touch on one thing quickly about sensory overload. We can talk more about this in another session if anyone's interested. Sensory overload can present itself in a lot of ways. If you're somebody that gets irrationally irritated or angry when there are weird smells in the office, for example, right? Or listening to the sound of someone else's baby wants to rip out your own like spleen and hearing organs. Right, where these things like make you, or loud talkers. So that's one for me. Like people who speak loud piss me off. I get so upset and agitated by that. And it's not because I want to be. They might be saying something great. I might really like them. But if they're a loud talker, I can't deal with it. I literally can't cope with it. Um, and I have to just get away from those people or tell them to turn their volume down, which doesn't go over really well when you're talking to adults. Like inside voice doesn't work. Um, but sensory overload does manifest itself in a lot of ways, and a lot of us deal with it without realizing. But I think that's a whole other topic. Caleb, you were going to say something.
Wrap this up and let's talk about our event and let's get to the questions. So if there's anything you wanted to mention on procrastination that you did not mention yet, let's do it now and let's talk about our event. And then we'll ask, there's a lot of questions regarding this topic in the chat too. But is there anything else you wanted to say before we switch gears slightly?
No, I think, guys, you all have the opportunity to improve your quality of life by employing one or more of these different methods. And I really hope you will, even if you're someone who's more robotic like Caleb. Doing a little bit of the introspection and the work to understand if you're if you're reacting to things out of flight, fright, or freeze is going to help you a lot. And understanding again that breaking things down into the smallest components possible is the way to actually make the big steps forward.
So you guys just saw how impressive Billie is and the skill sets that she has. And I'm involved in 2.5 companies. She's involved in 7. We've kind of mentioned this in the past. I want to talk about this. There's an event in Cancun, Mexico in September. I'm going to be there. Billie's going to be there. A bunch of Billie's coaches are going to be there. Those of you in the Business Builder, I've been in Business Builder, a bunch of Business Builder coaches are going to be there. Plus some other people are going to be there. And I'll give you my little spiel and then I'll let you get the details about this. But it's September 14th through the 19th?
That's correct. Excuse me, no, it's the 10th through the 14th.
10th through the 14th?
Of September, yes.
Got it. See, I'm flying up. So I'll be in Parga. I'm flying up to Cancun and then coming back down after the event. Yeah. And not only is it Billie and myself and a bunch of other coaches, but Billie does this cool thing, which I've never been able to do, where it's a flat fee to come and it covers your airfare and it covers your hotel and it covers all your food and it covers all the events. So you pay one fee. It's like an all-inclusive. It's Cancun, so it's all-inclusive. You pay one fee and it covers everything. Instead of when you go to events, I go to events all the time, paying the event fee, then figure out your airfare, and then how much is that going to cost? Okay, how much is my hotel going to cost? This is one fee that does everything from like a billion different cities around the world. So you pay a flat fee for this event and you're done. It covers food, alcohol. Does it cover alcohol?
It does.
Food, alcohol, your hotel stay, and your plane ticket. It covers everything. So you just pay this once and then you're done worrying about it, which is super fucking cool. And it's a business event, so you can write it off on your taxes even if you don't have a business. Please check with your accountant. So, and it's not just me and Billie, it's a bunch of other people going to be there. But anyway.
Yeah, so it is in Cancun and we are hosting it again. I haven't chosen the resort. We're down to the 2 finalists right now. But we are going to be staying at a 5-star all-inclusive resort on the beach with Cancun's multiple pools, a bunch of different, at least 5 different restaurants, 5 or 6 different bars, nighttime activities, daytime activities. In addition to having Caleb and myself, we're going to have right now, and it's going to depend on the number of people who sign up, but right now we have 8 coaches attending.
Holy shit. Okay.
From
there we go.
Different
more than I thought.
Yeah. So we have Caleb and myself. We have Christy from North America, who's our mindset coach. We have Cliff, who's our AI and automations coach. We have Matt in marketing. We have Jan, who's coming all the way from the UK to work on sales.
Who's in the chat right now, by the way?
Oh, right on. Hey, Jan.
Yeah, I saw him.
He was a definite crowd pleaser at last year's event. It was great fun having him there. We have Peter Young, who's coming from Vegas.
God damn. These are our best coaches. These are your best coaches because almost all these people work in Business Builder. Because I know these people.
Exactly.
Cool. These are
So yeah, it's a really great cast of people. So covering a ton of different topics. And the focus of this particular event is going to be unlocking your business DNA using systems and strategies to improve your communication and your business life. So I'm pretty excited about it. We have the itinerary is in the works. There's a sample itinerary on the page on our website, which we'll share with you in the chat. Um, what I'm most excited about is that it's 5 curated days of really cool activities. So unlike a traditional business conference where you might go to a resort, but you're going to sit in the resort's conference room or a ballroom with a bunch of tables and chairs for everyday sessions.
Billie
And
loves that.
guys, I can't learn that way, unfortunately. Um, as much as I would love to be a scholar, sitting and learning in a traditional classroom environment is not for me. It does not work. And I know, having taught the business builder for 5 years now, 4 years, that for many people in Caleb's audience, that style of learning doesn't work very well either.
Accurate.
So the way we have things structured at our events is we might do a coaching session on the lanai. Then we might switch over and do a little bit of archery before we talk about hitting our KPIs, our key performance
Cool.
indicators,
Cool.
and hitting the target. At which point we might decide to have a session in the pool if it's a nice hot afternoon,
Cool.
or in one of the closed down restaurants. We've done last year, we did breath work and yoga on the beach as well as in the ocean, which was a really fun way of starting the day. We also spend all of our time together. So it becomes more like a summer camp than a conference. Because typically at a conference, we know how it works, right? You're in some boring room. Maybe you get to go to different breakout sessions and move from room to room, but it's still some boring conference room, listening to somebody yammer at you and not being able to answer questions or interact with the people. And then going to the bar on your own and trying to figure out what to eat and where to go. And it's boring. Our vibe is completely different. We're all living and staying at the same resort, and we hang out pretty much all the time. Um, and it's
Yeah, I know
up
you guys
to
do.
everyone.
Like all day, all night. Karaoke to the wee hours. We did this in Vegas and much other places. So yes.
We did it. We have a good time. We definitely
Yep.
have a good time and like to keep
Yep.
the energy flowing.
Oh yeah.
Um,
People get drunk. It's great.
but that's really part. We don't. We just get to enjoy it. We laugh and enjoy.
I
Um,
don't, but yes.
but it's really the fun thing is the immersion that we have. You can talk to the coaches while we're on a bus ride to an activity. You get to do one-on-one coaching
Are we
because
going
you're
to Chichen
sitting next
Itza?
to them. We're not going to Chichen Itza this year. We did last year. We are
Okay.
going to explore Fuego, which is an eco adventure park. It is the coolest place I've ever been.
Okay.
Um, well,
Is that
what
a
else?
bus? Is that a we all take a bus out there,
We're
right?
all going to take a bus. It's about an hour away from where we'll be
And there's a
staying.
session on the bus, right?
There's a
Someone's doing a
session on
session
the
on the bus.
bus on the way
You're doing a
there.
training session on the bus. Yeah, this is what Billie does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I think for me personally, if I learn something, I can tie it to an activity. I'm going to remember how I felt, the physical sensations. I'm also going to remember the feelings, the emotional response that I had, and I'm able to retain that information so much more easily. And because I'm given permission to move my body, to move around, to change locations, or to skip a session if I'm not feeling it, or if I just need some quiet time by myself, I can take that. And I think it's hugely valuable because you're not missing anything. You're still with the participants, you're still with the coaches every moment that you wish to be, including at meal times. So I'm really excited about the vibe of this. I'm excited about the lineup of coaches. I'm excited about all of the different activities that we'll be doing. And for those of you familiar with the television show Taskmaster, you might recognize this guy, Greg Davis, right behind me. How do I point? There he is. There's
Yeah.
Greg. He was the host of the British version of this show, Taskmaster, which is sort of a wacky challenge show where you have to do some pretty fun tasks and challenges. And I'm setting up a Taskmaster challenge as part of our adventure at this one. So I'm very much looking forward to bringing that into the mix as well.
And just so you guys are clear, because we always get this question, I'm going to be there the entire time. Because people say, well, Caleb's going to be there. Is he just going to be there one day? I'm going to be there the entire thing. I'll be there. I'm not going to be hanging out with you 13 hours a day, but I'm going to be there all 4 days or 5 days or whatever it is. I'm going to be there the whole thing.
And he's coming to the adventure park with us, guys, because one of my favorite things, and we've talked about this in passing before, is kind of, I don't know what Caleb seems more of an indoor boy than an outdoor boy, and I'm an outdoor girl. So I always like to see like what Caleb will do in different situations. And so we've done race car driving, like with high-end performance race cars on a really twisty track.
We've done a lot of ATV racing out in the desert.
In the desert, exactly.
Done
So
that.
for this one, we're going to take you driving UTVs underground in caves at night.
Fucking cool.
It is one of the
I'm there.
coolest things I've ever done. I've done it twice
That's
now.
awesome.
Can't wait to go back. But
Where are the caves? Where are the caves in relation to Cancun? How far are they?
There are caves everywhere in the Yucatan Peninsula. It's the second largest cave system in the world.
Holy shit,
But
shows
we're
what I know.
going to be headed south a little bit closer to Tulum, like Playa del Carmen area, to go to Scaret Adventure Park, Fuego, and it's closed to kids. It's only open for adults at night, and you literally go swimming in rivers underground. This is all natural. There are bats and fish. It's so cool. There are zip lines, a huge water slide, a lot of really crazy cool activities to do, and relaxation areas with tiki torches and hammocks and a great big international buffet. It's an incredible time. And every person I've taken there has come up, as they're walking in, they look like a 5-year-old because it's just so incredible. So
really quick, the link, is this the Mexicom 2 link?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So I'm going to paste this in the chat. I'm going to verbally state it for those of you listening to the podcast. Is it there?
It is. That looks
bosscooperative.com. Bosscooperative.com. You can just go there and you can find it. But it's bosscooperative.com/Mexicom, COMM 2. Mexicom 2. So bosscooperative.com/MexiComm 2, the number 2. And do they get, so the price is going up in 30 days or is it going up in a week?
So the price goes up at the end of April.
Okay.
And it is, so the price right now is the best it's ever going to be. And
again, it includes airfare and hotel and all your food and all your alcohol and everything. Just to reiterate that. That's, so when you look at that price, you're getting a fucking deal. I'm not kidding. Anyway,
it is significantly less than $5,000 right now. It is going to be going up to $5,000 at the end of the month. So now is the best time to jump in and make your decision to join us. And if
we're giving you plenty of months notice. That's why we're discussing this now, because it's in September. So there's no excuses, because I want to make sure, especially most people will, including you Americans, will be going to a different country, just to make sure that you have plenty of time on this stuff. So that's why we're talking about it now. Yeah.
Exactly. And we also have, you can also set up a payment plan on the website. So if
you can? Okay, I didn't know this. You can?
That's new this year. Yes.
How much is the first payment? Do you know?
The first payment is going to be around $1,500.
Okay, so there you go. I didn't even know that. That's new to me. $1,500. Okay. And again, you can write this off. This is tax deductible stuff. This is business.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And the other cool thing that I have to mention is that for those of you looking to get your Mexican residency, I have a bundle for you where you can come to this event. You can bundle it with your Mexican residency. You'll have to stay an extra week at the resort in Mexico, but guess what? It's paid for. It's covered. So if you want to do the event and your residency, we can do that. We will invoice you as an event, which then makes it a legitimate tax deductible expense.
Okay. All right. There you go.
So if you're on the fence about it, now's the time. There will be, today is always going to be the day that it's best to start on your residency, guys, especially if you're American, because you know that
I've said 10,000 times, you can't wait on this shit. And Mexican residency, I have it, is I have permanent residency now. Mexican residency is one of the best residencies in the world to get, and you have the opportunity, unlike most residencies, to get a Mexican passport. You have that option, Once you've secured that takes a year or two. It takes a few years,
A
but
few
you have that
years.
option. Most countries, they give you residency. You're not going to ever get a passport. It's just residency. That's it. So Mexico's different. And one more thing about Mexican residency. Permanent Mexican residency is really permanent. So most countries, they say, I've talked about this, permanent residency, it just means you got to renew it in 5 or 6 or 7 years or 8 years instead of in 2 or 3 years. It's not permanent. Mexican residency, once you get permanent, you have to get temporary and then wait a year or two and then you get permanent. It's the rest of your life. You don't have to do anything. It's the shit. So if you want to get Mexican residency or another easy residency, do it. And if you do it at this event, you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I forgot about that. And a lot of you need residency. You're kind of farting around with this thing, especially you Americans, Canadians. Easy. Just pop down there and you have it. And even you're Europeans.
Yeah. Exactly. And again, your flights are included. Why not?
Everything's included.
What would you be missing out by staying another week, guys? And besides which, I'll be there for that week with you. The other coaches will leave during that second week, but I'll hang out, guys. I love Mexico.
Anything else on that before we get to questions?
No, let's jump in.
All right. I don't know if I get to all your questions, guys. I'll do my best. I'm terrified of doing cold calls. And I get super nervous, but I need to do them. How many hours per day, week should I start to do with warm up, and how many hours per week do I need to get up to? I can't tell you the number of hours per week you need because I don't know what your schedule is. I don't know what you're selling. I don't know what your objectives are. I don't know those questions. You want to get into the habit of doing it several times a week so that it becomes a habit. And what I would do is start slow. Maybe you set 30 minutes. If you're terrified, you start 30 minutes with a timer and then you're done for the day. And then maybe you do that 3 times a week. You start slow. Unless you're in financial dire straits, then you got a little more. But if you're not, so maybe you do 30 minutes on Monday, take Tuesday off, 30 minutes on Wednesday, take Tuesday. I mean, I understand all this. So start with that and then increase slowly over time.
Mm-hmm. The other thing is to practice. We write scripts for these things, not because we're going to sit and read a script, but so we have some idea of an outline of what we want to say and what the points are that we'd like to get across.
Yeah, have everything scripted out. Correct.
Write
Very
some
important.
scripts, do some practice. If you're part of a group, if you're part of the business builder, you're already doing this. You're already working with coaches Jan and Peter, and you're doing role playing. You're doing script improvements. You're handling objections. If you're not already doing that, I would definitely encourage you to seek out a program that will help you to do that with some guidance. But even before that, just write a script and practice saying it to the mirror and pick up the phone. The most important thing that you can do is dial. So even if you have to write, even if you just limit yourself to making 5 phone calls in a day, make those 5 phone calls. You can always increase those numbers later.
What do you think about these ditches? Small and medium-sized Italian companies producing industrial paints. That's all right. Italian lawyers specializing in inheritance. I
kind of like that one. I kind of like that one because law offices tend to either be really dialed in and efficient or really not dialed in and inefficient.
Luxury retirement homes for the elderly in Italy. That's a little too broad. So no.
Yep. And we don't like retirement homes because regardless of what country they're in, they don't have very much money, even if they're luxury facilities.
Ah, okay. Well, there you go. Yeah. Is your blog post on niching coming out this week? I think so. Let me double check my content schedule. I think it is. And if it is, you guys need to read it because that's like one of your biggest things is, hang on, I got to put on my glasses because I can't see. Hang on. Yes, tomorrow. So calebjones.com/blog. Yep. I have a marketing agency. My biggest issue has been outsourcing of the work of running the ad campaigns. It's concerning because there's so many little details involved.
That's why using project management is so important.
Yeah, you need Basecamp.
Every one of those details as its own line item, as its own assignment or task, and then you add support documents to it. So if you have like a Loom video or a written SOP, you include that in the task. And then bada bing, all the information is there.
How do I offer a good guarantee before knowing the actual results you will be able to deliver on? That's a very complicated question. I'm actually going to do a business builder session on that for those of you in business builder next week. You start with what you think would be valuable for the customer, and then I'm summarizing the technique. You start with what you think would be good for the customer, something very compelling that they would make them buy. Then you ask yourself, could I do this? Is there at least a 70% chance I could do this for my first client, knowing that I'm new? And I really, really worked hard for my first client, second, third, fourth client. Is there a 70% chance I could do this? The answer is yes, do it. And you'll figure it out. If you're like, no, I don't think so. No, not even 70% no. Then you got to lower down the guarantee a little bit. But you can't lower it down to something stupid. Like, we guarantee you'll get one new client a year. Okay, that's not a guarantee. That's compelling. So you start with the 70% rule. Am I 70% confident I can do this? Knowing that I'm new. 70%, not 100. Because what Billy said, perfectionism is going to work. 70%, then you do it. We make it work. Yeah. I'm just wondering, did I do something wrong or my Ralph Mack YouTube account anytime I tried? I don't know. If I banned you at some point, you were being inappropriate. I can't remember who I banned and who I haven't, and there's no way to look at the list. So I don't know.
And
my family member does it.
Guys, we have staff that does that. Caleb and I don't usually
I have no idea.
attend to that.
My family member doesn't believe in my 90-day Biz Builder program and keeps insisting on me to do business and analysis course on online Canada, so it'll help me start a business. What should I do? Well, I can tell from your name you're probably Asian, so you're not going to like this. You tell your family member to shut the fuck up and fuck off. Now, if you can't do that, you need to get to the point where you can. I talked about that on my other channel. You have to learn how to tell your family members, mom, dad, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, to fuck the fuck off. This is my life, not yours. Thank you very much. Unless they're an expert. If your mom is a billionaire, a self-made billionaire, and she tells you to not do something in your business, then you might want to listen. Is she a billionaire or whoever's probably not? That's the answer. But
yep. And you tell them, and you have to remember that other people's limiting beliefs have nothing to do with you.
Correct. They can fuck off. And I have told both my parents throughout my history, not lately, I don't need to now, to fuck off. Mom, fuck off. I don't care. I don't want your opinion. Dad, fuck off. You're not a man or a woman until you get the balls to tell your parents to fuck off. Now, if you're an Asian or Indian, and in some cases Black or Hispanic, that's going to be harder for you because of your culture. I don't care. Learn. Yeah. Don't get me started on that. Why do you tape your mouth and nose to sleep? Because when you tape your mouth, if you can do it, some people can't, you sleep better. And I track my sleep with my Oura Ring, so I know exactly the difference. Instead of going all night, when your mouth is shut, you sleep better. It forces you to breathe through your nose. A. B, I also open, if you watch Alex Hormozy, he always has that thing on his nose. It opens up your nasal passages, makes it easier to breathe. Again, improves your sleep by a few percentage points. That's why I do it.
Coach Christie does that too, guys. A couple of our coaches do.
It helps. Yeah. And my sleep is one of the most important things in my life. I have to make sure my sleep is perfect. So I do everything. I put my earplugs in. I have an air purifier. I black out my windows. You've seen it on my videos. Anyway. Tips for getting in touch with business for niche research. I can get a hold of them, but a lot are not eager to talk. That's a very broad question. Do you have an easy answer to that question, Billy? If not, I can answer it.
Yeah. If you've been listening to Caleb, you're probably asking them what their biggest problems are. Don't do that. You can't phrase that question that way because it just makes people defensive. So you ask them what drives you crazy, what wastes your time or money, what causes you stress, what do you wish you could make go away. Never start the conversation with what are your problems or what are your biggest problems.
Yeah, definitely don't start the conversation. That's stupid. Don't immediately start the conversation. Yeah, right. Correct. You really advocating for your audience to start using TRT? This is really a question for my other thing, but I'll just summarize the answer. For whatever reason, if we decide we won't do it, what do you think is the alternative? If you don't want to take TRT, you need to Google artofmanliness.com /testosterone. It is a giant article written several years ago about this guy went from 300 to 750 naturally. Be prepared to do a lot of work and a lot of lifestyle changes, but you can raise your testosterone naturally as long as it's not too low. Read that article.
Hey guys, even girls like, hey, I'm on TRT, my version of it, because menopause.
Yeah.
I'm an old girl. So I
So
take
is
it too.
Pink Firefly a little bit. Some women are have low testosterone. Yeah. Yep. Correct. Pink Fireflies too. Yeah. Oh, Arthur's talking to you. Habits started
Oh,
3 hours a week.
Arthur.
Habit.
He's one of
Yeah.
my favorite business nephews. We love
Cool.
Arthur.
Love it. Now that Trump has implemented tariffs, how do you think this will impact Western countries like Canada and America? Will it cause these countries to collapse sooner? Yes. Or could it potentially help them? Every serious problem in the economy starting in around 2010 that occurs accelerates the collapse of the US and Canada. COVID knocked 10 years off the life of America. Trump's tariffs are going to knock off, I don't know how much, but yes,
And
inflation
China,
is already high. It's going to get even worse now. You saw what happened to the stock market last week. Now, my prediction is Trump will turn these tariffs off in about a year if they're still bad, because he doesn't want to lose the midterms next year and be a lame duck president. So my guess is, because these tariffs aren't going to work. You cannot. How do you buy a TV in the United States that is manufactured in the United States? You can't. How do you buy
a car,
computer manufactured that? You can't. How about a phone? How about a car outside of Tesla? You
most
can't.
of our food.
So these
most
tariffs
of
are
our food
complete. Are
comes
stupid.
from other places
Food,
in the world. We ship commodities out to other countries, but when it comes to like
Correct.
produce and meat, a lot of it's coming in from other places. So what I think, like all this is doing is hastening war, and China just announced that they are no longer going to be respecting patents. So they have had laws on the books for decades and decades that wouldn't allow them to directly rip off the products that they're manufacturing for other people because of patent protections. They are working through their government right now to eliminate that completely, so they can rip off anything, meaning that, and they can produce it for pennies on the dollar, meaning that America is even more fucked than it could ever have imagined. And this big orange turd is just hastening our death.
Billy doesn't like Trump, as you can tell. I hate everybody, so I'm an equal opportunity hater. But my point is that what Trump supporters will point out is, but look at this big chart, all these people ripping us off with their tariffs and our tariffs. Yes, that is correct. But you don't just say, well, I'm going to do tariffs on them then. You can't do that if you can't manufacture anything. That's how a 15-year-old reacts to things. So you've exchanged your old man who couldn't think or speak last year with a 15-year-old. And in both cases, you're fucked. Get out of the United States.
We're just more fucked now because, the war is coming. So get the fuck out if you have any brain. It's a bad place to be.
Yeah, don't get me started.
And you're going to go broke.
Yeah, a lot of Americans will be very broke soon. Yes. I'm having difficult to put the effort to make my business because I think I have a part of me that will think this will not work. We kind of already addressed that.
Everyone has that, guys. The only way to stare down the fear of failure and kick its ass is by taking action. So even if you're afraid, take some action every day, even if it's only a tiny baby step. Take some action. That is how we kick the ass of fear.
How much salt are in 45 swallows of salt water? So the easiest way to do this, I have a complicated system, but I'll simplify it for you. You take a 1,500 ml container and 12 pinches, and you shake it up. And I leave that by my bed, and I just drink 45 swallows until it runs out, and I refill it. That's it. And I don't need to drink coffee. I've never had coffee in my entire life, and I have more energy than men who are half my age, literally, because I hydrate every morning with salt water. But anyway.
So here's something about that, by the way, Caleb, that you probably didn't know. If you're someone like me who has ADHD, caffeine does the opposite. Caffeine just chills me out.
Yeah, I know people like that.
Go to bed.
Yeah, I've known people like that. Or they take 5-hour energy and they get sleepy. And you're like, what the hell? Yeah, I've seen that. You're right. Yeah. Tom, I can't read all your comments, but it looks like you went through something horrible. But you read Freedom Fortress. That's awesome. I'm escaping this shithole of a town and country for the life I always deserve. Great. Please. You only get, my deal is, this is a spiritual thing. I don't believe in an afterlife. I don't believe in reincarnation.
Same.
This is it. Now, I do believe in something beyond what we see. God, yes, I've talked about my spiritual beliefs. But when you're dead, you don't ever get to do this again. And there's probably no afterlife. So you only get one. It's not a video game where you fuck up, you can do it again. So if you're miserable, you live a shitty life, or you live in a place you don't like, make those changes and get a better life. You don't get to do this again. And life is short, dude. I'm about to turn 53. I felt like I was 18 just like a few weeks ago. I mean, it goes by
I
fast.
still feel I'm about 11 years old, like with that
Yeah, man.
enthusiasm and energy of a kid. It's just that when I fall down, I don't bounce the way I used to.
Question for Auntie Billie. Can you please provide some additional tips, advice for us perfectionists, people trying to get things done? She kind of already did, but you want to summarize one technique?
Perfection doesn't exist. Your idea of perfection comes from comparing yourself to others. And usually that other you're comparing yourself to is a fiction, is a complete fiction that you've made up of the perfect person or the perfect scenario. You have to let it go. Perfection stops you from doing things. So in the same way that we kick the ass of fear, we kick the ass of perfection by taking some action. So despite the fact that I know this might not be perfect, I'm going to freaking do it anyway. And I'm going to keep taking the next step the day after today. That's realistically the most easy way I can break it down. Take some action. Take one action.
Baby steps. Right. Hi, Caleb. I'm literally writing a book on procrastination right now. Cool. Should be coming out next week. That's cool.
I'm not sure if that's comedy or not, but it was phrased beautifully.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't pick up on this.
I'm pretty sure that was sarcasm.
You're right. Sorry, I'm Stu. I didn't. Sorry, you're right. Opinion on Trump tariffs. Already talked about that. I can make a phone call to order a pizza or whatever, but when I cold call business owners, I get panic attacks. We kind of already addressed that. Okay. Mexican residency has requirements. So go ahead.
On that panic attack, I get it. I even have that when people have scheduled a call with me, they paid for it for a coaching session, but I don't know them. I still have those feelings sometimes. Embrace it, accept it, and write down what you're thinking and write down what you're feeling. Like, what is the anxiety? Where am I feeling it in my body? And then just let it, take a deep breath, pick up the phone and do it anyway. But get help. Guys like Peter and Jan are amazing coaches. They've helped me get over a lot of those fears to the point where I'm taking sales calls for some of Caleb's products in addition to my own.
Right.
That's a pretty big deal.
You guys do a consultation, a sales call with United Business Billie, you might get Billie now. Right. Especially if you're in like the North American, South American time zones. Mexican residency has requirements. Not just anyone can apply. Every residency on earth has some requirements. That's right. That doesn't mean anything. Doesn't change anything I said. Income requirements or investment requirements. I know. That's right. Mm-hmm. How many months per year do we need to stay in Mexico in order to maintain our permit? You don't. You could get your thing and leave and come back. You have to come back a year later for a week and leave again. And you're good. You're golden. You got to, again, you can't just get permanent residency. It takes a year or two of getting temporary. And you got to go back and renew it once, I think. And then you're done. It's not, Mexican residency is one of the best residencies on earth.
It is. And it's getting harder. We've already experienced that this year with clients I've put through and helped. It's getting harder and it's going to get worse as a result of these trade wars. So, get it going.
If you're lower income, does it make sense to get temporary residency in Mexico if you don't anticipate making enough money for permanent residency? Yes. Okay, first of all, Rob Bob channel, why are you anticipating making not a lot of money? Where is that framing coming from for your life? I don't plan on making a lot of money ever. I'm going to be poor for what the fuck? And again, for the minimum that I recommend is $85,000 a year USD, which is way more than what you need for Mexican residency. Right, Billie?
Yes.
Okay. So shit, dude, your attitude is all fucked up. Number one. Is there a path from permanent to permanent from temporary? Anyway, Billie, what is the do you know what are the income requirements now for Mexico? Do you remember what they are?
They are variable and it depends on which Mexican consulate you go to. But the range is between $4,200 and $4,500 US per month as income. Or having a savings of at least,
that's before taxes, right? Is that gross before taxes?
It is gross before taxes, correct.
So it's before taxes for you guys to have jobs. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. You do need to go to the embassy or the consulate and apply for a residency visa. You need to show them your financial documents at that time, and they'll either give you the visa or they won't. And I've had the first 2 instances of people not getting a visa even though they've met financial requirements this year. One of them was a person closer to retirement age who was looking at doing it for permanent residency for his retirement, and has a brother who's already retired there, and he was still denied. And the Denver consulate specifically told him, like, this isn't for an escape plan. So, as I said, it's getting hairier to get Mexican residency. If you're thinking about it,
wait.
Do it sooner than later, please. Do yourself.
What have I been saying for 7 years, guys? Every year this gets harder, and you dumb shits who are still waiting around not doing anything, it's going to be harder next year, and then harder next year, and then, as I said a few years ago, one of my predictions was in 10 years or so from a few years ago, the only people who can get residencies and live this kind of lifestyle will be like multi-millionaires, probably with rare exception. So you don't want to wait till that happens. That's stupid. So yeah, don't get me started. All right, a few more. I have to go. Auntie Billie, how do we get rid of the fear of failure? Summarize that, because we got to go soon.
We're going to take one action. Take one action that scares you and keep going with that every day. It's the easiest answer I can give you guys, and it can be something small. Start small, but keep it going and do it mindfully. I'm going to do one thing that scares me or one thing that's hard every day.
Would you please spell out the link to the Apex program? No, I don't give that up publicly because that's not for everybody. If you're interested in that, send us an email, theonlyBlackDragon@gmail.com, and no promises. Dubai residency is still an offer, and places other than Mexico for those who are curious. Also, thanks for the shout out, Billie. So let's see.
We'll do Dubai. We're not doing Dubai as a big group. But we do help you independently or individually with Dubai. Yeah. We are not doing Armenia at this time.
We're not doing Armenia anymore, but we're doing Mexico, Paraguay, Dubai.
Correct.
Right.
And if you want Uruguay, we can help you with that one as well. I don't recommend that one.
In Uruguay, you can't. It's not a backup plan. You have to live there.
Yes.
Uruguay. Yeah. How many niche research conversations would you have before deciding to work with them? 3 of them have already mentioned the same problem. My rule of thumb is consensus from 5 of the same. And I'm not sure exactly if you're referring to this, but when you're figuring out what their biggest problem is, you want 5 people in the niche who don't know each other to report the same problem. And they can state it differently. Different people will state the problem differently. That's okay. But if it's the same problem, that's the niche you want to go for. And then you develop your consulting or service offer to solve or alleviate that problem. 3 is not enough. 5. More than 5 is better. 5 is good enough. Not 3, and we get guys all the time. They talk to one guy. Hey, I talked to a guy who I don't care. Talk to 5 who all say the same thing.
Unless the guy that you talk to is saying, take my money, talk to more.
That's different, right. Oh, Igor's on the chat. I get overstimulated super quick. Anyone who likes stimulants? I like Modafinil. Does that yeah, I've heard of that. I don't know much about it. But yeah, okay, cool. I'm running out of savings and have all my money in Tesla, around 400K. You are insane. I've been saying this. I don't talk about finances a lot lately because I want to steer away from that topic. But when I used to talk about this more, investing, managing your personal finances, things like that, you do not put all of your net worth in one thing. That's insane. Read Freedom Fortress, please. And if not, you got to diversify at least somewhat. That's ridiculous. Of course, you're having a panic attack right now. God damn. And I love Bitcoin. I love my Bitcoin. I don't have everything I own in Bitcoin. Stupid. So, yeah. All right. Cool. All right. We have to go. Any last words, Miss Business Auntie Billie?
Come to Cancun. That's my takeaway.
Well, let's give the link one more time. bosscooperative.com/mexcom2. There's 2 M's.
Yep.
Or you just go to bosscooperative.com. You just click events. You'll see it. And I'll be there. I'll be there the whole time.
Yeah, bunch of
and
us
I'll be hanging out with everybody. Just not all day, but I'll be there.
And we'll be adding some videos to the YouTube channel in the next day or 2 as well. So you guys can get some insights, see some testimonials, see some footage of the action and the fun stuff we get up to on our trips. And in the
And there may
meantime,
be other people there too. I'm going to try to get Pink Firefly to go. She's freaking out about her work, but I'm going to, odds are 60% Pink Firefly will be there too.
oh, cool.
And maybe some other people.
She's such
That'd
a
be
sweet
awesome.
girl. I can't wait. I hope
Yeah.
so. I haven't seen her in a couple of years, so it's time. But again, don't procrastinate. Book your tickets today if you want to save more than $500. And we are big at encouraging you to save money so that you can spend it on other things. And remember that procrastination only hurts us if we're not aware of the reasons that we're procrastinating and we're unwilling to take some steps to change it. So take one small step today, whether that's reaching out to a friend, whether that's setting up a coaching or counseling appointment, whether that's setting up a project management system and a list that you can replicate. Take some step today to help yourself. And we'll
Don't just
continue
keep
talking
the
about this
condition.
topic. Exactly. The status quo isn't good enough for any of us.
Don't
Particularly
just
if
do
you've been
nothing.
struggling. You are worth more than that, and you can push through this. Just take one action, one new action per day, and you've got this.
And my thing is, as I keep saying to you guys, you don't have time to fuck around anymore with everything going on with the collapse of the West and AI. You don't have time to just sit around and make excuses. You've got to take action. Like Billy said, take at least a little bit. You don't have time. Most of you are already behind schedule. With that happy note. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Billy.
You can do this, and thank you for being with us. Thanks, Caleb.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
See ya.